All right, thank you very much. So my name's Simon Tompson. I'm from Cisco, and I'm actually from a part of Cisco that you may not have heard of called Meraki. Has anybody in the room heard about Meraki already? Oh, there's a good few of you. Oh, that's good news. OK, well, for the rest of you, I hope to give you some nice introduction to what we do that's very different. We've really brought something pretty different into the Cisco family. So I want to introduce this new part of Cisco called Meraki. And it was an acquisition which occurred about 12 months ago. And so Meraki was actually a startup, Silicon Valley classic startup. Back in 2006, we became a company. So we were founded out of a research project at MIT in North America. The founders there, they wanted to come up with a new way of managing meshed wireless networks. So this is where you have lots of wireless access points, and you want to be able to manage those without having to log on to each one separately. What they came up with is what we nowadays refer to as cloud. So it's the most overhyped term in the history of IT. But what I want to try to do is show you that this is a true, genuine cloud implementation and show you how it can make your life a lot easier when it comes to managing a very dynamic network environment. So we have a complete range of data networking products, which, of course, Cisco already has. But it's a very different approach that we take. It's completely browser-based. There's none of this command line stuff that some of you may have become acquainted with. And there's a good reason why we've taken this approach, and we'll come to that fairly shortly. We have obviously been very well recognized. Gartner, you've probably seen our positioning as far as data networking is concerned, and Meraki has certainly contributed to that and helped to move us up and to the right in that leaders quadrant. But we've also, independently as Meraki, earned some significant awards as well. So InfoWorld Technology of the Year last year. And so it's a very exciting time for us. Now that we're part of Cisco, we have the ability to tap into Cisco's almighty resources. So we're doubling the size of our R&D team right now out in San Francisco. Just to give you an idea of the scale, we're a tiny little part of Cisco. We're about 350 people, the whole entire company, end to end. Right, so why cloud-managed networking? Why are we taking this different approach? Cloud is obviously quite a contentious term for many people, so I want to try to explain to you why we're doing this. And it's really about this new world of IT that we are operating in now. And you have all heard about this from other speakers here this morning. You're all very familiar with it already. Very many devices that we have now, very many different applications that we're using. So we need a much more dynamic network environment than we used to have. When I first started in the world of work, which was actually longer ago than you might think, I'm actually older than I look, I was actually sitting at the same desk every single day. I had a PC with a cable to a floor box, and I was running just a small number of applications. It was a very deterministic, very easy to predict networking environment. And most of the data networking gear that's out there has been designed for that kind of world. Set it up, and then don't touch it anymore in case something goes wrong. We just go and look at it if we need to fix something, right? That's not going to fit nowadays, because now we're all using smartphones. I'm sure everybody in this room has got some kind of smartphone device in their pocket. I think I've got 3 Wi-Fi capable devices with me today, and this is becoming increasingly common. I think in the younger generations, the sort of students of today, you're talking about an average of 3 devices being carried around at any one time by each individual. And think about what's running on those applications, on those devices. Most of them are running applications that use network resources in some shape or form, even if it's only to download software updates. So this is a very much more dynamic world than we used to have. We've got to try and manage this, and how on earth are we going to do it with this archaic infrastructure that requires great levels of expertise and time and change management windows and so on and so forth. So we think we've got a great solution which helps to make it much easier and adaptable to be able to keep your network operating at peak performance. And I want to show you some of the way in which we do that. So what we're doing is bringing the power of the cloud into enterprise data networking. I would imagine most of you in the room have some sort of web-based application you're running yourselves at a personal level. So quite often webmail, for example. I'm sure most of you are using webmail service of some sort, Gmail, Hotmail. We're all familiar with the concept. This means that we can go anywhere in the world on any device, and we can get access to our data. Enormous flexibility. We're bringing the ability to do that into the world of data networking because everything is managed via a web browser, via the cloud. You don't configure these boxes This is the less interesting part of our portfolio, really, the hardware itself. Your interface is to the graphical user interface. And now you can be sat on an iPad on the train. You could be sat on a laptop in the middle of a construction site somewhere, and you can access your network exactly the same as if you were in the office. There's no need for proprietary software and cables and all the rest of it. So those of you who are what I call command line junkies, you're going to be very disappointed with this because it is completely GUI-based, I'm afraid. Right, let's have a quick look at the cloud architecture that we use. It's all based around this cloud-hosted management, or cloud-hosted network service, as I usually call it. And what exactly is that? Because we keep hearing this term cloud. What does it actually mean? Well, in all cases, with cloud, what it really translates to is servers sitting in racks in data centers, in our case, dotted around the world. And when you log in via your web browser, you're connecting to one of these servers that happens to be most geographically local to you. But it doesn't matter which one you're connecting to. We are making sure that configurations for all these devices are held in multiple locations. So what you do is you actually configure what I call the cloud master configuration, and then that is synchronized on an ongoing basis to the devices themselves. So you can see the devices on the slide here. They have a little blue line connecting to the cloud, and that's actually very similar to what your smartphone is doing. So if you've got an iPhone in your pocket, for example, if it has a data connection of any kind at all, it is persistently connected to Apple's cloud. That enables things like applications to be updated or notifications to be sent down to the device. And we're really taking exactly the same approach here. So every single cloud-managed Meraki device is persistently connected to the cloud. And so what happens is that the configuration master you've been working on up there in the cloud, it gets synchronized on an ongoing basis down to the device itself. Very simple concept, but it is important that we have a local copy of the config that's held on the devices, which means that if you're unlucky enough to be disconnected from the cloud, and as we've discussed this morning, we have nowadays very highly reliable wide area networks that we tap into and use. But if you are unlucky enough to be disconnected from the cloud, your network is going to continue to operate because it's working off the local copy of the configuration. Now, a very important point to make, especially in this era, 2013, about cloud, is that user data, your traffic as end users, does not go into the cloud. That really would not be a scalable architecture in any way, shape, or form. All we're interested in doing is taking the control traffic, that synchronization process of configurations, and for monitoring purposes, that's the only purpose for which we have that connection there. So it's cloud managed rather than all your data flowing via the cloud. Okay? That just goes directly to wherever it happens to be going. Now, because we are now responsible as an organization for providing your entire experience via the web browser, this gives us the ability to iterate extremely fast. This is one of the beauties of cloud services, is that you can now iterate your technology and add new features on a very rapid basis. Those of you who do know about Meraki already, you'll know about the feature velocity that we have, the speed at which we're introducing new features. Many of the traditional players in the market, they'll talk about roadmaps that are as much as a year ahead. And you can maybe get quarterly updates if you're lucky. In our case, if you take a look at our blog, you'll see new things happening virtually on a day-to-day basis. New features being added, tweaks being made to the interface, because we're constantly enhancing it based largely on your feedback. And you'll see that during the interface that I'll show you a little bit later on. So I want to talk about some of the solution highlights where you actually get the value, because we're not here to talk about boxes, you'll be pleased to hear. I'll happily talk about boxes to anybody who wants to later on. But what I'm interested in really is what the software gives you. Think about this as network as a service rather than network as a platform. And because it's network as a service, we can now start to talk about the interesting things, the value you can actually get out of your data network, instead of it being this thing with flashing lights that makes lots of noise in a comms room somewhere. How many of you have businesses that operate in more than one location? All right, that's a significant number of you, and that's actually really interesting to see. Our solution is absolutely tailor-made, beautifully made for organizations that operate multi-site because it's cloud managed. You're no longer having to log out and log in to different pieces of kit in different environments. That's really yesterday's way of doing things. Today, what we're able to do is manage all of our devices across multiple locations simultaneously. You want to make a configuration change, you can push it out. It will go to all of your sites simultaneously. Just done in a couple of mouse clicks in most cases. We provide second-to-none visibility into your network. I'm always amazed to see the reaction on people's faces when they see what you can get out of the Meraki equipment. They can actually see, for the first time in many cases, what's actually going on a data network. What the hell does this thing do? What am I actually carrying? That's when they find out about all the bit torrenting and the social networking and all the rest of it, but we'll deal with that later on. Also, because we're cloud managed, we don't need to actually touch these devices to configure them at all. It's actually possible to start configuring devices or making config changes to them regardless of whether you're connected to that device or not. Because remember, we have this separation via the cloud. So we can actually be shipping products from our factory. It can be sitting on a lorry somewhere, and all you need is the serial number we give you. You can go into the cloud interface, start configuring that device. When it gets connected to the internet, it phones home ET style, and then it'll just suck that configuration down and start operating immediately. So it's complete zero-touch provisioning. Now, capacity is an increasingly important concern for many of you running wireless networks especially. When wireless networking started to become popular around a decade or so ago, we were looking at just providing coverage. It was a convenience thing. So I want to have coverage for my meeting rooms. I want to be able to maybe provide some guest access in the foyer. Well, now wireless is absolutely pervasive, and I expect most of you in the room here probably connect to wireless first. It's your default way of connecting now with your laptops when you go to work. You open the thing up, you expect to be able to start working immediately. None of this fumbling around with cables like I'm being brave with here at the podium. So because of that, we're starting to stress a lot of these networks that were put in a decade or so ago. They really weren't designed for such a dynamic environment. They weren't designed to carry so many clients and so much traffic on them. So we need tools that are easy to use, even enjoyable to use. Yes, I do use that term. I'm not just because I'm a geek. I actually genuinely think you'll like this stuff. So you can get visibility out of your network, see what's running. What social applications are people using? How much time are people spending actually doing their work? How much time are people spending BitTorrenting and so on and so forth? And we can then go in and start to fine-tune this network to make sure that it's then performing well, providing good service to your business, because it's a productivity tool at the end of the day. Your data network is the absolute spine, the central nervous system of your entire business. So you need it to operate successfully. And so to be able to make easy changes as well as easily see what's on there, absolutely crucial. And then we need to be able to provide you with the technology to be able to optimize the wireless environment as well, so that you can deal with these very high numbers of clients that we're starting to see. It's always a challenge in an environment like this, which is why I've plugged a cable in, because I know that many of you will have your devices connected to the Wi-Fi in here, which means the Wi-Fi performance will probably just go straight down the loo. All right, so we want to be able to make sure that devices get fair access to the network, that they get a sensible level of performance. Right, bring your own device, another one of the most hyped terms in the IT history. But we know that some of you are doing this. How many of you are looking at or have already done some kind of a BYD project in your business? Okay, so that's a fair number of you. And we are really still at the relatively early stages of this because people feel uncomfortable about it. How am I going to manage these devices on my network? How am I going to make sure that they don't start to have a detrimental effect on my more business-critical applications? So for us, we want to provide you with simple tools, again, where you can onboard devices, you can provide them with policies that give them the right kind of connection to the network. We also want to make it easy for the end users to get themselves connected as well. And if any of you want to come along to our seminar we're doing this afternoon, I'll be happy to go into plenty of more detail on all of this. Now, this one's really nice. User analytics and engagement. Again, getting value out of network infrastructure. Can you believe that? Rather than it just sitting there passing ones and zeros around, we're starting to be able to get to a point where we can get a lot of useful information out of this infrastructure. If you go into a retail store today, in many cases, you will be counted by some kind of electronic device in that store. They know that you're there. They're only really interested in knowing how many of you are there and how long you spent there. What we're able to do with this technology is we can apply the same general concept to the existing Wi-Fi infrastructure. So all of you who have your smartphones in your pockets, how many of you switched the Wi-Fi off when you came out today? Off altogether. So it's very few. It's just a few of you have done that. Most people don't bother. They walk around, their Wi-Fi is switched on the whole time. And let's be honest, it's really not that big a deal. The battery drain is always bad on a smartphone anyway, so what's the difference? When you have your wireless switched on, what it's doing is it's constantly scanning the environment to establish what wireless networks are out there that it can join. And it needs to do this so that when you actually want to join one, it can show you a list, and you know what to tap on. If we have the device, therefore, probing in this way, then we can actually take some information from this. What we're actually interested in knowing is, how many devices have we seen? How many of those devices have actually stuck around for more than a minute? How many people have actually come into my store? Whereabouts have they been in my store? So I know that I've got the layout done correctly. And we can get this kind of information out of the wireless infrastructure. And by the way, there's no other hardware at all with any of these features I'm showing you. You simply need an access point and a license from us to get going, and that is it. You can do all of this yourselves. So the analytics is a really nice development. It's very interesting. It means that potentially stores can now start to push out promotional offers to people who they know are visiting regularly, especially if they are loyal customers. So some of you maybe have signed up for some of the retail apps that exist out there. And these can give you the ability to build up points and get your special offers and so on. We can now start to tie that information into presence awareness of the device when it comes to the store. So we know you're here, and we know you like jeans, so we're going to send you a coupon, 20% off jeans today only. All right, and this is fabulous stuff because it's just a bolt-on to the wireless network with no additional cost, and it means that you start to get some value out of your infrastructure instead of it just being a box sitting in a comms room somewhere. Getting users connected, always a challenge. There are loads of different ways of doing this. Most of you have probably played with this on your own broadband routers at home, so you probably have an idea how to set up a WPA2 enterprise, personal passcode-based access onto your wireless network. Well, we've got a whole host of ways of getting connected, and it's virtually just as easy to do with all of the other options as it is with a home-based system. So if you want to get serious about enterprise level, then we'll absolutely take care of WPA2 enterprise, radius-based authentication, LDAP, and all of the rest of it. A nice one that we've added this year is Facebook check-in. And I choose my words carefully, Facebook check-in rather than login. With Facebook check-in, what we're doing is we're providing businesses with an opportunity to monetize their Wi-Fi again. If you go into Bob's coffee shop and you check in there on Facebook, all your friends are going to see that you're at Bob's coffee shop, right? So you might go in and like that to get an extra bonus free coffee, for example, like Richard talked about earlier. So this is a value. This is a real value because social value is absolutely growing all of the time. We are starting to listen more and more to peer recommendations before we make purchases. So things like this are a really nice way of getting some additional value back out of a customer, or end user facing network environment. We can't talk about data networking without a little bit on security, and I am from Cisco, so I really should cover that. We have it absolutely nailed down as far as wireless is concerned with intrusion detection and prevention services. This gets a little bit geeky, so I'd rather go into it in more detail this afternoon, but I'm very happy to do so. Our firewalling is super advanced. You can now go in and configure a firewall. You probably think you can't do it, some of you. You can, because if you can go in and say, I want to block Facebook.com, hit return, done. Block Facebook on your entire site. None of this worrying about IP addresses and which ports and TCP and UDP and all the rest of it. So we're trying to make life a lot easier for people to get real value out of a network without having to hire, dare I say it, CCIEs or very expensive network communication experts. In terms of products, we have to talk about those just a little bit. I want to make sure you understand the breadth of the portfolio we have. And in fact, this slide, this is proof that things move very fast in our company. It's out of date already, and I only submitted these slides a week ago. So we have 6 models of wireless, and we also include now the brand new 82.11ac standard, which is the new gigabit Wi-Fi capability. And security appliances are phenomenal technology where we call this sometimes the Swiss Army knife. It's got everything built in. We got the ability to do WAN optimization, deep level packet inspection and WAN optimization. The list goes on. I could go on all day. I won't do that. Switching, we have just enhanced the portfolio, so we now have 14 models of LAN switching. So really comprehensive. We've got something for everybody now in the family. And last but not least, mobile device management, a key component of your BYOD strategy. And this is really for managing all those mobile type of devices, your Windows, your Macs, your iOSs, your Androids. And we offer this to the market completely free of charge. Sorry, Jonathan. Sorry about that. Completely free of charge, but we do this for a reason, right? So there are some really nice hooks between the mobile device management component and the infrastructure that you would put in to support a network and those BYOD devices themselves. Right, so that is it really. Agile, simple, service-based networking. I'm very enthusiastic about this technology, and I'm just barely scratching the surface here. What I'd like to do in the remaining few minutes that I have is rather bravely switch across to my web browser and just give you a really quick look at a couple of things that you can get out of your network. Right, so straight into a view that you would expect to see in your own environment, and this is what we call the client's view. This enables me to see who has been connected to my network over the past week. I do appreciate this is probably really small for you guys at the back, so just listen to my description. We have a list of clients that have appeared on the network in the past week, and a very, very large amount of data that has been transferred as well. And this list gets super unwieldy with so many clients. We've got 1,624 client devices that have connected to our network in the past week. Not very easy for you to sift through and find individuals. So what I can do is I can effectively Google my own network. It's really nice. So I type in iPad, and I can see I've got 30 iPads that have appeared, and there's the list of those iPads. We can see which ones are online right now. There's one. It is obviously very early in the morning in San Francisco, so AJ is obviously very keen. This works for operating systems as well. So I can go in and look, just type in Windows, and now I can see I have had 320-odd PCs on my network running Windows in the past week. Now, what we're doing here, this is not just a basic, simple name search. We are using some quite sophisticated device fingerprinting to enable us to accurately identify the type of device. And this is extremely useful to us, as we will see in a few moments' time. Over here, we have what I call the applications pie chart. So this is all the apps that are consuming our bandwidth. Now, imagine that you're remotely monitoring a site which has just a small DSL connection with, say, 6 megabits per second, like I have at home, lucky me. You want to make sure that bandwidth's being used effectively. So I get this list. It gets very heavy with lots and lots of slices of the pie. So I can just tap that list, and then it gives me this drop-down which shows me the applications that have been consuming the data in a much more easy-to-read format. Now, we're huge advocates of cloud technology, and so this is a very normal list for us. You may think, goodness me, look at this list of things. Do these guys do any work? We often see Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo Mail, YouTube is often in there, and of course a lot of backup services. So there's Dropbox, SkyDrive, and Box in there as well. Now what's interesting about this is, let's say that you're a little bit concerned about the consumption of traffic from a particular application. So let me pick on Dropbox. So I just go down to Dropbox, tap on that. Now I see who is actually responsible for contributing my Dropbox traffic. Okay, sorted by user. So I've got this one here who's Ian, looks like it's a MacBook Pro. So let's go and have a look at Ian's machine, find out a bit more about it. So he is approximately triangulated to the San Francisco Bay Area. This, what we do here is we overlay Google Maps, so we can pinpoint devices onto Google Maps. But if you want to, you can also upload your own floor plans. So you can also have the device. Using Wi-Fi triangulation, we can pinpoint fairly accurately where a client is at any one time. So we can see that this user is on a Mac. We can see that it's a bang-up-to-date MacBook Pro. It's got 82.11 AC capability on it. So this will be a screaming fast wireless experience for this user. He's not currently connected, but we can see when he was last seen. And we can see which access point, which wireless AP he was connected to, and how he was authenticated. Or she, this is actually, sorry, this is Katie. We can also see the usage for this particular user over the past week. Looks like this has been heavily skewed by one really big chunk of data there. But I can see which policies have been applied to this user. And let's say that I wasn't too happy about this user's use of Dropbox. I might want to do something about it. Here's a list of things I can do. I can just go and block that user straight away. So if they, thanks very much, but you're now coming off the network, come and see IT, and they won't go any further. Or we can apply a policy to them. So this might be a policy which says, OK, Dropbox, you can carry on using it, but we're going to restrict it down to, say, 2 megs per second or something. So we're not swamping our more mission-critical applications. All right, so that's really just a very quick overview. This is a mountainous experience I want to show you. I'm very, very enthusiastic to do that. So please drop by our stand to come and learn more about it. And of course, I will be running a seminar this afternoon, which will be run fairly much ad hoc, like we're doing here, so we can make sure it's valuable for you guys. OK, thanks very much.